Fellow Nigerians, consequently, the following decisions come into immediate effect. The state executive councils are dissolved. All local governments stand dissolved. The National Electoral Commission is hereby dissolved. The interim national government is hereby dissolved.
He ruled with an iron fist. From 1993 to 1998, Nigeria wasn't governed, it was gripped. Silenced. Suffocated. But what if I told you, everything you know about Sani Abacha is only the beginning? But wait, how did a quiet soldier from Kano, who once trained in England, go on to hijack the most populous black nation on earth? Kindly watch till the end, because what you're about to hear is not just history, it's a warning. Sani Abacha was born in 1943 in Kano, into a humble Kanuri Muslim family. A quiet start for a man who later brought Nigeria to its knees. He joined the Nigerian Army in 1963, shortly after finishing at Government College Kano, and trained at Mons Officer Cadet School in Aldershot, England. That same year, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant. But Abacha didn't rise by charisma, he rose by coup. He was the quiet architect behind multiple regime changes, always in the shadows, always in control. He played a tactical role in the 1983 coup that overthrew President Shehu Shagari and brought Major General Muhammadu Buhari to power.
Gentlemen, as has already been announced, the best interests of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and without fear or favor, affection or ill will, in accordance with the oath which you have just taken. Fraud, indiscipline, corruption, squandermania, misuse and abuse of public office for self or group aggrandizement, which had assumed debilitating proportions in the last few years, will be dealt with ruthlessly, no matter whoever may be involved.
2 years later, he switched loyalties again, this time helping install General Ibrahim Babangida in 1985 by ousting Buhari.
I'm pleased to take this opportunity to declare once again, therefore, that this administration attaches the greatest importance to constructive and helpful criticisms as well as the freedom of the press, and to declare further that the administration also attaches the greatest importance of fundamental human rights.
Abacha had no ideology, his only religion was the power. In return, Babangida rewarded him. In 1990, Abacha was made Chief of Army Staff, and later became Minister of Defense. It was a strategic promotion. The general was now within arm's reach of the throne. Fast forward to June 12, 1993. Nigeria held what remains the freest and fairest election in its history. The nation, under the supervision of Professor Humphrey Nwosu, voted overwhelmingly for Chief Moshood Koshimowo Oluwole Abiola. It was historic. Abiola, a southern businessman, had achieved national unity through the ballot. But that dream was short-lived. General Babangida, under the guise of national security, annulled the election.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
The backlash was explosive. Over 100 pro-democracy demonstrators were gunned down in the streets. Nigeria stood at the edge of collapse. Babangida, desperate to hold on to control, installed a temporary civilian puppet.
It is with a deep sense of responsibility that once again I accept the challenge to serve as the head of the interim national government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Ernest Shonkan, head of the interim national government, a body advised and designed by Abacha himself. The interim government was surrounded by military men still loyal to the general. It was never meant to last. And it didn't. On November 17, 1993, just 3 months after the interim government was formed, Abacha summoned Shonkan, forced his resignation, and declared himself head of state. No vote. No referendum. Just raw power. Once in charge, Abacha wasted no time. He suspended the 1989 constitution, dissolved the National Assembly, banned all political parties, and reimposed military rule at all country levels. Abiola, the man who had won the people's mandate, remained defiant. On the eve of the one-year anniversary of June 12, Abiola declared himself Nigeria's rightful president in a speech in Lagos.
It will continue off and on until the military release the result of the June 12 election and put the democratically elected president, who is myself, in charge of affairs. I won't go to war. I won't encourage my supporters to go to war. I will fight for peace, and we will get peace. But see, we do not want the peace of God, a peace whereby somebody continues to rifle us with a gun. We will get peace, but we'll get with decency and integrity and honesty and probity and democracy.
In June 1994, Abacha had him arrested. No trial. No formal charges. Just disappeared. Abiola rotted in detention for 4 years, cut off from the outside world. Meanwhile, Abacha built a regime of silence, run by military intelligence, informants, and fear. NADCO, the National Democratic Coalition, became the voice of resistance. Abacha responded by labeling them enemies of the state. He issued a decree allowing himself to detain anyone without cause or trial. On June 4, 1996, Kudirat Abiola, MKO's wife and one of the most vocal pro-democracy advocates, was assassinated in broad daylight in Lagos. She had become the symbol of resistance, and she paid the ultimate price. Journalists like Begoda Kaudo disappeared without a trace after publishing exposés on the regime. Alex Ibru, publisher of The Guardian, one of the few outlets still critical of the dictatorship, was shot in his car by unknown men. It didn't stop there. On August 19, regime forces arrested NADCO chairman Chief Anthony Enohoro, Chief Cornelius Adebayo, and General Aloni Ekirenade. They were detained, interrogated, then quietly released, a classic intimidation tactic. Major Hamza Al-Mustapha, Abacha's chief security officer, became the feared executor of many of these covert operations. He ran a parallel intelligence network loyal only to Abacha. In March 1995, while attending a U.N summit in Denmark, General Olusegun Obasanjo received grim news: his former deputy, General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, had been arrested. Obasanjo ignored warnings to stay away and flew back to Nigeria. Upon arrival, he was arrested, accused of plotting a coup alongside Brigadier General Lawan Gwaidib. Obasanjo was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Yar'Adua was sentenced to death. Abacha later commuted both to life sentences, but it was too late. Yar'Adua died mysteriously in prison in 1997. Abacha even turned on his own deputy, General Oladipo Dia, arresting him in another alleged coup plot. Dia begged for his life. His sentence was commuted, but the message was clear: no one was safe, not even his second-in-command. While bodies fell and prisons filled, Abacha and his allies were siphoning billions out of Nigeria's treasury. Between 1993 and 1998, $3 to $5 billion vanished into offshore accounts. In 1999, Swiss lawyer Enrico Manfrini was hired to trace the loot. What he found was staggering: over $2 billion hidden in foreign banks across Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Jersey, and Switzerland. This wasn't corruption, it was systematic looting. On June 8, 1998, Sani Abacha died suddenly inside the presidential villa. No autopsy was ever conducted. He was buried within hours, but people still ask questions. Was it a heart attack, or was he poisoned? Exactly 1 month later, Chief MKO Abiola also died in custody, under some mysterious conditions. Though he had been scheduled for release that very day. With both men gone, General Abdul Salami Abubakar assumed power and announced a return to democracy. On May 29, 1999, the man once jailed by Abacha, Olusegun Obasanjo, was sworn in as the first president of the Fourth Republic. Under Abacha, Nigeria's foreign reserves had improved, debt was minimal, and the Petroleum Trust Fund invested in roads and hospitals, an effort spearheaded by Major General Muhammadu Buhari, then head of the PTF. But none of it could scrub the blood from the walls. The economic gains were built on repression. The infrastructure was laid over graves. In the story of Nigerian leadership, Abacha was not an outlier, he was a reflection. Buhari from 1983 to 1985 came with promises of discipline, but jailed journalists and ruled by decree. Babangida from 1985 to 1993 played the political game with cunning, earning the nickname the Maradona of Nigerian politics, only to plunge the country into chaos with the June 12 annulment. Abacha from 1993 to 1998 brought brute force and rugged. Now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a key figure during the Nadiko resistance, rules Nigeria under a democratic guise, but questions still linger about corruption, legitimacy, and whether the system has truly changed. And so, the story of Sani Abacha ends as it began, shrouded in shadows. From the barracks of Kano to the throne of Nigeria, his rise wasn't just a tale of ambition, it was a masterclass in how silence, fear, and calculated violence can hijack a nation. For 5 years, Nigeria didn't breathe, it flinched. It whispered. It buried its dead and buried the truth even deeper. But here's the haunting question, was Abacha really an anomaly, or was he simply the system unmasked, unfiltered, and unleashed? What does it say about a nation where stolen billions are easier to trace than stolen lives? What does it say when justice comes only after the tyrant is buried, quietly, with no questions asked? Because long after his sudden death in 1998, the infrastructure of oppression he built still stands, reborn in new faces, new names, and new excuses. Leaders still silence critics. Wealth still disappears offshore. And elections, well, do they still mean anything? So the real question isn't just how Abacha rose. It's who's next, and we will recognize them before it's too late. Because in a country where forgetting is easy, remembering is resistance. Kindly like, share and subscribe to my channel for more wild videos like this on Nigeria past dark events. Don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Abacha a product of his time, or a prototype of the present? Thanks for watching.